Hey Camus, it's Souki again. So some hotshot producer who shall remain nameless for privacy reasons didn't set up the microphones properly on the most recent episode of Tea Time. So I had to do a little bit of crafty editing and voiceover work to make up for their terrible, horrible, god awful mistake. So if you could do me a favor and just not notice, that would be so great. This is episode 2 of Camasonian Tea Time. Now we're here again today. We're back better than ever. It's a beautiful day outside. The grass is green, the sun is shining, and I can even hear the birds singing because today we're live from a little room behind the choir room.
Where we keep all the birds.
Where we keep all the birds. Yeah, you can't hear any magic. All magic. We are here with the one and only Music Meister of Camas High School, Mr. Ethan Chessin.
Why do I get to be the music meister? There's music meisters.
I don't think the title choir director describes enough of what you do.
Mm-hmm. I do like the German Kapellmeister, right? If you're a choir leader in medieval Renaissance Enlightenment Germany, you get to be a Kapellmeister, the master of the choir church choir. And why don't I get to be a meister? That's like that's a real term.
We are also joined by choir
meister
Lucy Farland.
Yeah. How are we today?
I'm great. I'm dipping my raspberry zinger in lemonade that's cold. You know, in Renaissance Germany, they called it zinger.
They called what? Zinger?
I don't know.
So, what has the choir been up to so far this year?
Oh, not much. No,
What do
we're pretty much nothing. Oh, no, it's a really exciting year, actually. The main project of this year is working with Alicia Jo Rabins. She's a local Portland-based filmmaker, artist, composer, musician, poet, educator. She has this project she's been working on for a number of years called Girls in Trouble, where she takes stories from women from the Old Testament and kind of reimagines what the perspective of that character might be in the present day, and writes pop music, folk music, rock music to go along with those stories. But what she's doing right now is turning it into a major hour-long choral theatrical experience for us to perform alongside her band, a professional string quartet, and we're going to be performing that, premiering that work here, part of that work here at Camas High School in March. In April, we're going to be performing at the incredibly historic and beautiful Temple Beth Israel in Northwest Portland. Just utterly gorgeous building with wonderful acoustics. It's going to be really special. And then we get to take the show on the road to New York City and perform at a major venue in New York City. Most of the semester right now leading up to that project is starting to prepare students to understand Jewish choral music and Jewish perspectives on music, art, history, music, culture, etc. And so we're starting to work on Jewish choral music and learn from rabbis and musicians and community leaders. So we've already started a little bit of that, but that's what I'm really excited about for this year.
That sounds exciting. And I heard you mention the New York tour. After doing a little bit of research, it seems to me like you're basically the Michael Phelps of high school music education, because I look you up and I see Teacher of the Year over and over. And I actually heard from an inside source at the Camasonian that the proceeds from your most recent award from the Country Music Association is all going towards the New York tour. And so could you give me a little bit about what the New York tour is going to be about?
So the purpose of this whole educational experience is to win Olympic medals. So it's funny that you mentioned the Michael Phelps thing. Yeah. The other major purpose of our experience this year is to introduce students to a culture that they might not have very much experience with. The reason that we're going to New York this year is twofold. Number one, Alicia Jo Rabins, our collaborator, used to live in Brooklyn, has an audience in New York. When I take my choir students on tour, I don't just want to take them somewhere that's going to be fun to go, because we could go anywhere. I want to take them somewhere where they're going to have something to share as well as have something to learn. So what they have to share is this project that nobody has seen before, that there's going to be interest from the population. What they have to learn is the fact that New York City is the city in the world that has the largest Jewish population. Side note, my name Chessin, we think is probably an anglicization of the Yiddish chazan, which is the Yiddish word for the cantor, the person who sings in services, which I find to be like really poetic. Yeah, yeah, it's fun to think about that. But what I know that students are going to get out of this experience, and the reason that I'm doing all this fundraising, to answer your question, your actual question, reason I'm doing all this fundraising for this project is anyone can go to New York City and eat in the restaurants you're supposed to eat in and go see the shows you're supposed to see. But what I can offer my students, both by having some cultural connections of my own to the Jewish community and also the research that I am doing this year connecting to that to Judaism and Jewish cultural organizations, is expose my students to a slice of New York, a slice of the world that that their education in Camas and most of the cultural ways that they're being exposed to right now are not going to expose them to otherwise. Having a more interior access.
That's great to hear. And it's interesting to hear how your education emphasis, while it is on music, it's also about cultural education in different aspects. And so maybe could you tell me at what point in your music career did you know that you wanted to go into education specifically?
Let me answer the question you were about to ask first, and then I'll answer that question. So the most tremendous experiences that I've had as a teacher is when I've been able to, through music, bring my students into an encounter with the other. Doing a major work on immigration a couple years ago, I don't think very many of my students were aware of the immigrants who live in our community here in Camas, or had talked to someone else about their experience being an immigrant, moving from place to place, why that happens, and how that affects you. We did a project a couple years ago on gospel music. My students said, I don't think very many had ever been to a black church before. And getting to go to a black church and seeing what that service is like and seeing the ways of religious communication was really special. And getting to sing music together using words from other cultures has been such a tremendous opportunity for me to teach here in Camas specifically, where there are rarely, I think, opportunities for students to talk to people who aren't very similar to them in so many ways. So that is a motivating factor for me. It's trying to figure out ways that we can use music to bring in musicians from the community, cultural leaders from the community, to tell us about themselves, that rather than just to hear it from me about the outside world, because there's only so long. I know listeners of this podcast might disagree, but there's only so long that you can listen to my voice. The other question that you were asking was, what got me into music teaching? Yeah. So partially that. I mean, there was a poster on the band room wall at my university that said, "The more you love music, the more music you love," and I really take that to heart. I played in college in a klezmer band, Eastern European Jewish folk music. I sang with the Yale Women's Slavic Chorus. You can ask me more questions about that later. I found community through music. My dad had the only klezmer band in North Carolina, so I learned music from toddling around at the feet of the piano while his band was practicing, and seeing the ways that spoke to who we were culturally, where we came from as a family and as a culture. At every step along the way, I have felt valued in music in a different way, and I'm not a person who naturally feels valued. So I'm so appreciative of what music does for me and has done for me. I just want so many more people to have that opportunity to feel valued by a community, to feel connected to their culture, to feel loved by the people around them, to feel appreciated, and to make something beautiful, to make something meaningful out of the work, the labor that we do together.
I can see the way that you're impacted by that sense of belonging and sense of community. And maybe this is something that you can speak about, Lucy. Could you talk about, from a student's perspective, that sense of community in choir?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a part of some choirs of some sort since, elementary school, through church and through school. I can't compare the sort of community I feel in choir to any other community. It's such a vulnerable environment in a sense, and with that, it kind of forces you to connect with yourself and the other people around you. And I think maybe sometimes we take, just like casually singing around, like singing in the shower, something like that. Like, I think we take that for granted sometimes. And like, we don't truly realize how powerful it can be, especially when you do it with others. And just to have that shared common interest it's just incredible. Yeah.
I can definitely understand the importance of having people to share that experience with. And I know you've had a lot of students, because how long have you been teaching here?
13,000 years. This is year 13, and part of the inspiration for the focus on Jewish choral music is that I'm thinking of this as our bar mitzvah together. Year 13, that's when it happens. Yeah, okay.
Having someone to share that experience in music with, I heard a story from one of my brother's friends. You may remember him, Jackson Lufkin.
Oh, Jackson Lufkin. Yeah, of course.
He told me this story about how you convinced him to join choir by recruiting one of his friends. And I think that goes to show how much you care about giving your students that sort of experience. And I can also appreciate how your experience with different genres, because I've noticed how you're willing to go beyond what a traditional choir concert has to be, and you involve different genres so that everybody kind of feels that they have something.
Yeah, I mean, I love choir. People don't have iPods anymore, but if you look at my iPod, there's not too many songs that are choral songs. And I would imagine if you look at my students' Spotify streams, is that a more timely reference than iPod? But if you look at most of my students' Spotify streams, you're not going to find that much choral music. I can think of 2 or 3 people that we could look at theirs, but my hope is for my students to be connected to music, and there are so many ways to do that. You can produce music, you can join a choir, sure, but you can be in a band, you can sing chamber music, you can play chamber music, you can. Yeah, that's right. I mean, music is music, and I want to be a music teacher, not just a choir teacher.
We actually have a concert that probably will still be in the future by the time this episode comes out. The choir
2025. It's going to be good.
Just fall
No, when is this out? We've got a concert Thursday, October 19th at the Garver Theater, 7 p.m. Should be lovely. If you want to come definitely to a show that we will be performing at, Monday, December 11th is going to be a gorgeous one, working with a cantor, a singer and a prayer leader in Portland, who's also a wonderful, wonderful, delightful person and a good friend of mine, Jack Falk, and his band, the Carpathian Pacific Express. That'll be the concert where we focus most heavily on Jewish choral music specifically, but it's going to be lots of fun, something for everybody.
Well, I think that just about wraps us up. To the viewers, which probably aren't many of you right now, and the listeners, you could have been anywhere doing anything, and you were listening to us. You were listening. Damn, you were here. You were here listening to us, and I appreciate that. To all the haters, those who doubted us, you're dead wrong.
I propose a toast with the dregs of our lemon raspberry zinger. We can pour one out for our homies, so mostly so we don't have to drink it.